Hi, this is Chris with Eros and Thanatos Circles, and I'm here with Heike.
Hey, I'm Heike.
All right. Uh, this video is so that you all can get to know us a little better as you have this standing invitation to join us on a weekly basis. How to do that is all available on this landing page. But we've been sitting here for the last 15 minutes laughing and connecting about how to do this, how to do the actual video. We have a really great sense of what we want to do overall. So generally speaking, though, the largest context and intent, something that Heike and I are both really passionate about, and you'll hear more about our journey individually and together with this, is that the core longing with a spiritual impulse or a spiritual instinct, or something like the big question of the truth of our being, that calls to any of you that are going to be checking this out, that shifting more from living and relating from that place and less from our egoic and conditioned self. Lots of different words and explanations with that, but the felt sense of that movement and how that changes everything, and especially in regard to our sexuality and our sexual love relationships. So anything you want to add, Heike, about that big piece, and then we'll get into our story a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's really moving from ego to living from essence, being.
Mm-hmm. And all of the stuff comes up when we really want to start exploring that. There's all these spectacular teachings to start sort of like aligning ourselves with, but then there's, at least I've noticed, an enormous amount of unexamined stuff that also shows up to sort of like purify or clean up. At least I've noticed that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, living in relationship and wanting to live an alive relationship that's not just living from habitual behaviors. There's so much stuff that comes up, and it's so worth exploring it. And it's kind of interesting because Chris and I, we come from really different places in just from the history of who we are, how we've been living our lives. And so here I am. I've been married for over 20 years, raising two kids. It kind of looks very traditional. I'm actually like not really quite that traditional, but this is my on the surface background, that I've been in a really long-term committed relationship and have been working on how to create intimacy there and how to be able to become more and more transparent and relate as the person, and also as the being that I really am. How does this work with all our topics that we do carry around in our personality structure? So, long journey. And Chris?
Yeah, well, and also just to add that you're from Germany and living in Germany.
True.
Hamburg. Yeah. So, yeah, and I am single, never married, but over the years been extremely committed in the long-term relationships I've been in, really wanting to explore, as I've grown, what's possible inside that relationship as a place to both explore and apply higher consciousness or spirituality, whatever you want to call it, that impulse, and really, how does that show up with our sexuality? So we're sort of saying the same thing, and this topic, as putting words on it, is something that it's so interesting. Heike and I have found that we resonate very deeply around the impulse for this, and yet to actually name it and live it is something we are hoping to clarify, really, through having ongoing weekly discussions on the internet and inviting an audience for that. So I also am a parent of a 21-year-old. Going back in time just a little bit, as far as something else that's unusual, is this was a unplanned pregnancy. And it was actually during the sort of like end of a relationship, as a relationship was coming down, street language, breakup sex. And also, this was with a woman who was supposed to be infertile. She had gone through in vitro stuff in a previous marriage. And I didn't want children, and she couldn't have children. I thought this was great. And then the pregnancy happened. So, we looked at getting married, ending the pregnancy, and then we decided we're going to co-parent. So, and that's been a spectacular journey in terms of, things that can result from sexuality, which is children. A lot of times conscious sexuality and how wonderful that can be doesn't account for children and family. So here we are, Heike and I, very different parts of the world, really different experiences, but there is this thread we share of this where we met around a dedicated body of work, Thomas Hubel's work, Transparent Communication, and there.
Yeah. And for me, like in my journey, in my relationship, it's been like a big part has been to really dare to be true and to my authentic self, and it's not even it's where is the energy that wants to move through me? Like, what is the true impulse, and what is it that I want to follow, and what do I not follow? And being caring and conscious about that, but not suppressing what really feels right for me in a given situation, just out of fear or insecurity, or like, this is not what you do. And so this kind of relates to how we met and what happened then. So we met at this spiritual deep body of work workshop, and I actually was there as a translator. So for 3 days I was whispering continuously in Chris's ears.
Yeah. And that in itself, for any of you that have been in any, just, like, if you've ever gotten into a writing project with somebody or that sort of thing, where we're working with language itself on a continual, as a conduit to really get to something, this allowed Heike and I to really like get each other's, operating system. And there's a high degree of compatibility that we both have in that regard. I would say this thing that Heike just alluded to is, if you look at my story, as far as the pregnancy outside of marriage, being highly committed to doing right by the whole situation, not being self-indulgent. One of the things that shows up that I have a sense Heike and I both highly resonate with, that in the, consciousness or spiritual world, there is a lot of self-indulgent stuff going on. We're freed from all our previous structures, sometimes called the postmodern world or the new age world, but it can be really self-indulgent, where I'm just going to do this because it feels good, or this is my truth and good luck with you. And so, I really navigated that, continue to navigate that, see that as a core path. I see that in you, Heike, as you navigate your marriage and also honor your impulses to possibly spend time with other men. So I wouldn't quite say, well, you can speak to it. It's not like an open marriage, but nor is it self-indulgent, but there's an element of that's your primary structure, that's your commitment, and also being open to what's arising and being connected with your partner about that. Someone who in this whole process, I've gotten to know really well. Yeah. So yeah.
I think it really depends. Like, I totally agree with the indulgent part, and that's not what this is about for me at all. It's more, and I guess this really depends on personality structure. Like, the structure I come in is so oriented towards safety and looking out for others, that for me it's really important. Like, it feels like for me it's not about indulgence, it's truly about daring to step up for what the situation wants. But I think it's really good to be careful in that point, because it could very well be just egoic indulgence. But in this case, to me, in my situation, it really doesn't feel like that, because sometimes it feels much more scary to follow those impulses than not doing that and just staying with what's traditionally done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the example on how we met is actually a great example, because basically what happened is there was a good boy hug at the end of this workshop with Chris, another man, and me, and just an intensely beautiful energy. And then we parted, and that was it for the moment. And then there was just this sentence of, oh, let me know, send me a message and let me know what kind of trouble you get into, because Chris and this other friend were to spend another day together. So I'm catching a train back. I'm home with my kids, with my 2 kids, with the children we have that are teenagers now. My husband is still at work. He's about to come home. I don't know, was it the next day or something? Anyway, at some point I get a WhatsApp message.
No, it was that evening, right? It was that evening. So yeah, and this other gentleman there that we hope will be here from time to time, that I was staying with him. So I went back to Berlin, she went back to Hamburg. And so the 3 of us there, myself and this gentleman and Heike, we had been sharing a lot of experiences, some cuddling, in these high transparency and open spaces of consciousness work many times. A lot of like soft intimacy, consensual soft intimacy shows up. And so this man and I, his name being withheld right now, we're back at his place, and we're just sort of sitting there like, like, where's Heike? And so I was like, this is alive right now. This is what we experienced is very alive. And I asked her in a kind of mini direct way, is this, the way she was expressing herself, is this okay with your marriage and your husband? And she said yes, and it felt true. And in this postmodern space, we can have any kind of a relationship we want if what we're doing inside and what we're doing outside is in integrity with another person's hearing that. Anything, it's hugely creative space, and yet it demands an enormous amount of responsibility. So with that, and it can also be really playful. I'm sitting there with him and I'm like, let's just WhatsApp her, message her, and ask her if she wants to come down here. And
so the WhatsApp that reached me was like, the kind of trouble we want to get into is like with you. So, or some other wording, something like that.
It was playful.
It was super playful. And then there was like the possible train to catch. And I had just gotten home. My teenage kids are there. My husband still out. And I get this sense, and I know the quality of it. And there's an energy and a knowing that this is a situation, even though it sounds totally crazy, there was an instant yes. There was like, yes, I'm going to get on that train. I might not be able to catch that one, but the next one. And I'm going to go there. And it was not knowing what I would get into. It was thinking, oh, this is crazy. I just left the workshop and now I'm going to go and visit 2 guys I met on a weekend workshop and hang out with them. What's that about? But then, because I know that when it's so clear in me,
yes,
I just see myself, okay, I'm picking up the phone, I'm calling my husband, and this is the quality that we have cultivated. Instantly clear, okay, I'm gonna call him and tell him, and so I'm on the phone like, okay, this might not make a lot of sense to you, but this is one of those moments where I know I need to go and do this and be there. So I basically explained to him that I won't be home when he comes home. I'll be on a train to Berlin to meet these two men and find out what wants to happen. And that is a kind of trust we have established. So he's like, oh, okay. And he gets that quality in me. And there is a deep trust that things are communicated. So yeah, basically I just told the kids I'm gonna be gone for another day and got on the train. And it's, yeah, go Chris.
Yeah, so there we are. And really, our messaging her was out of longing in terms of, so, you know, across the divide, so to speak, of the genders, and this is going to be one of many things that we're going to get into in our weekly calls, video calls, that there's desire and attraction and the magnetism and the polarity between genders that can always be really powerful. It can open up like a conduit between people. And we were like missing her. You know, it was like, where is Heike? It almost like the way after you spend, you know, like a whole play day as a kid with somebody. And so the yes to actually contact her between us was like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, are you feeling it, right? It's like, this feels like a yes. There's that, this feels like a yes. Not a, and again, these things have to be kind of like teased apart. Is this an egoic yes, or is there something happening here that wants to create something on the planet? And
yeah, it came across in a really just sweet way. Like
yeah,
the way it came and reached me, I was smiling, I was laughing, I was like, yes, I really want to go. And I felt safe in it. Like I wouldn't just, this is not my style to just like go and hang out with different people. It's just not my lifestyle. It's not what I'm interested in at all, really. But in this case, it just felt like the totally right thing to do. It felt trusting and caring. There was a lot of awareness and consciousness, and it felt playful. And boy, that mix is hard to resist for me. And I'm so glad I went.
Yes.
All that has developed and happened from that we will share many things about in our weekly broadcast, because so many things have evolved from this encounter we had in Berlin when I got on that train.
Yes. Yeah. And this speaks to so many things, which this video does have to come to an end, but this is reliving this is really, I am bowing to the magnificence of it, because let's see, you know, just to name a couple of quick things,
Yeah.
that sense of playfulness, that sense of trust, that sense of following a yes, I want to suggest that those are competencies that, with great reverence and not saying this is how it is, but those are the kind of things that start to show up when we start practicing relating more from essence or presence or our beingness and less from our egoic or conditioned self. And it starts to show up in really playful, spectacular, it's like a boom. It like, oh, I can't believe I said that. And I can't believe this is happening. So
yeah, and at the same time, there's such a caring in that, because in this playfulness, in this boom that you just mentioned, there at the same time, I arrived and there's like an inclusiveness of the bigger situation. So the first thing that happened, and this just also hasn't happened to me before, the first thing we did was sharing pictures of like they had looked up my husband, and we brought him into the space, and it was included right away. And so from the get-go, there was just this conscious space of whatever we did or didn't do would have an impact on other people. And so it's moving with the impulse, and at the same time including the entire bigger situation in a deeply caring and aware way. And this is just something that I really care about bringing that out in the world. And this
Mhm.
can't happen if we are purely connecting just from ego. These kind of qualities won't show.
Yeah,
I don't.
and you just named it right there. There's, yeah, whether you want to call them qualities or competencies, or, you know, sometimes I like to use the term, you know, more of a, you know, coming from more of a spiritual identity. But, and the words are, you know, it's our best attempt at these things, but it's a very real phenomenon. And what went down, you know, in this was about a year ago, or at least however long this video stays posted. It's now October of 2018. This was October of 2017. The things that have occurred since then are incredible.
Deep opening.
Yeah, in that, so, because one of the things that occurred is that relative to the three of our desires at the time, to not have this to be some sort of self-contained indulgent experience, was that I, at the time, was going through like a trial separation from a partner I was with, and still at this point exploring whether to go forward with. Her and I are doing that together. This other gentleman there, very similar situation right now, seeing someone, then exploring whether to still be together. And then there's Heike and her husband. Right away, this other gentleman of the three of us initiated a desire for all of us, the six of us, to come together and start relating in this sort of platform, video conferencing. It took a little while to get together. There was resistance when we all started to show up on it. There was fear. What is this all about? But in very short order, the emergence, this is a big, you know, jargony word, but things from whence there was nothing arising, incredible, relentless commitment to honesty, truth, playfulness showing up, mutual compassion, the synergistic aspects of it. And I've been in this field for a long time. Both of us, Heike and I, 20-year seekers, high-level teachers. And I also make this my profession now. I came out of airline flying as a pilot to do this. Blown away in the last year.
Yeah. And this is really, I mean, we have been experiencing this at our level of experience. We've been blown away. There has been so much opening, so much that is possible. And this is really, it's like the birth of these Eros and Thanatos Circles is that group of people, of 6 people that we've been intensely relating with real honesty and caring and transparency. And now it feels like we really want to expand that conversation. We want to open this up to other people so that other people can enjoy the benefits that we've been experiencing within this group of people. And this is why now here we decided to invite you in. If this is interesting to you, if this is calling you, a real honest, down to the bones conversation that can be playful, that can be excruciating, that can be deeply inspiring and definitely opening, then you're in the right place. And it'd be lovely to have you join our broadcasts.
Beautifully said. And a sort of like, you know, true benefit to oneself as an individual, and also this very powerful experience of this as we open these capacities up in ourselves around such as a very often limited domain of sexuality and attraction and attachment and bonding and all the different forms that can have. And so many of us on a path of consciousness or spiritual awakening or what have you are extremely challenged in integrating that expanded consciousness in those domains. Definitely a personal benefit or with the person that you're with, but also I have no doubt it is contributing to the arising of a higher consciousness that wants to come into the world now. So it's an embodiment of that inside sexual love relationships that is, and this degree of embodiment, as far as I can see and feel and sense, is only available through the accessing some of the competencies that show up with really starting to live it. And the way we all lived this in the last year, I just want to give you one quick example and I've been around a lot of remarkable transformational experiences, and I know you have too, Heike. So at one point where the woman I am with, and we were at a point of separating relative to the journey of any couple. You get close, similarities, differences, you start to try and make good decisions together. We were sort of, at a very intense emotional tipping point. And so she got on the phone with Heike. And to the point where Heike, through knowing me and getting to know a dimension of me that's not quite showing up inside of that relationship with her, and them being of the same gender, that it supported a rising of a different points of contact between my partner and I that would not have been available if you had not spoken to her. Even though I've gotten to know you through the magnetism and the polarity of the gender gap. And I would say that in getting to know your husband, who I've gotten very close to and admire, there have been some things that have benefited your relationship through this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it lends itself to sort of what I've been noticing, sort of an ecology that is remarkable at its intelligence. And this is not polyamory, or this is more like whatever is good for each person on a deep core being level, and then finding that yes, that Heike was talking about. It's both an enormous freedom and liberation, and the personal and felt responsibility to others is incredible. So we're inviting you to this. Check it out. And at least for a good while, the topics are going to be about sexual desire, attraction, this kind of journey that all of us go through with someone, where we see someone and we're like, oh, there's magnetism. And then, oh, there's the beginning of attraction. And then all the stuff that shows up with our attachment, and then bonding. And then how even in a long-term relationship, we run through that over and over and purify that. So at least for a while, and if not coming back to that again and again, that's going to be what we are with, because the six of us just lately in the last month have revisited all this in such a spectacular way. It's blows me away. So I have a sense it's going to blow all you guys away too. And really, so join us for this, because it's about the evolution of consciousness, and it's about having great sexual love experiences.
Yeah, and it's about living it and not just talking about it. It's really about bringing it into your everyday life experience. And yeah, come check it out.
All right. Okay, everything else you need to know is on the landing page. Looking forward to see you there, and bye for now.
Bye.